Today, I'm joined by Zack Whipple, founder of IMAGOS AI. They're solving a problem that most dealerships don't even realize is coming yet. How dealerships show up when customers are searching inside AI tools like ChatGPT and other large language models. Zack and his team focus on real-time attribution, helping dealers understand when and how AI-driven searches are sending real shoppers their way. We're excited to dig into what this shift means for dealer visibility, marketing, and staying competitive as search continues to change. One and only Zack Whipple. How are you doing today?
Braden, I'm good, man. How's your day going?
I'm doing excellent. Happy Monday. I'm excited to get back here chatting automotive. Thanks for joining. I know your time is valuable.
Yeah, of course, man. Anything to talk about the business I work in, man, that's the stuff that gets me excited. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. So you're based out of Utah. We got connected recently on LinkedIn. You guys are up to some really cool things and very important things as well in the automotive space. So want to dive into that today.
For sure, man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
If you were introducing yourself to somebody, how would you go about that? Who is Zack Whipple?
Man, I could really drag that story out, but I think the biggest thing for me is, I'm very resilient. I like to outwork people. I'm very competitive. Grew up playing sports my whole life, grew up playing basketball, and I think that translated a lot into my career because, I've learned how to really communicate with people in a way to understand their needs. And I think that's what's really kind of led me down the rabbit hole of getting into this business, because you're dealing with people all day, right? Whether you're B2C as the dealer or B2B as a vendor, I think the biggest thing is how to speak to that individual and how to really generate a relationship that can be sustainable, right? And I think that's a good way of talking about it, and then I guess segue into how I got into the automotive business. You hear this probably from everybody you talk to. I joined this industry on accident, right? I didn't plan for it. My dad grew up in this industry. He actually used to manage all the Larry H. Miller dealerships here in Utah before they were obviously acquired by Asbury. And my dad ended up passing away a couple years ago, and it kind of segued me into that seat of like, man, is this what I want to do? Is this the industry I want to be in? And, a bunch of his dealers reached out to me and they're like, dude, come do all of our marketing. I've seen you've been working in other verticals. Your dad was talking about your success you were having in other verticals that you've been working on. And, I'd love to have you come, teach us the ways, right? Show us how to utilize social media in a way that can actually generate ROI. They're not just going to light money on a fire or film it with a flip phone or something, right?
Yep.
And, that's what kind of segued me into this industry, man. And yeah, it kind of just kept domino affecting. I met a lot of guys like you, Braden, who, are forward thinkers and who are really actually trying to make a difference in the industry. And I think that's what's really, made it easy for me to fall in love with it.
I love it, man. It's really interesting. And I hear this from our clients too, that are obviously older than us. It's really cool. And it's refreshing to see young people come up in an industry that is, I'm not necessarily stuck in their ways, but it's just a very complex industry. A lot of different puzzle pieces. So that's cool. I mean, I can relate. Obviously, my sympathies about your father, but getting into business, I can relate to that, following in my dad's footsteps a little bit, more so on the sales side. But it's rewarding, man. So I can relate to that.
It is, man. There's nothing bigger than that, right? It's like, making your last name mean something. We're all doing this for the first time. We all are going to die one day. And I think the biggest thing is, one, being an honorable man, living with honor, treating people with respect. And I think that's one of the things that I can attribute to my dad is just, being an honorable person. And, he had a very complex way of showing that. But I think that, I attribute a lot of that to him as well.
Incredible, man. Incredible. So you were advertising for a bunch of dealers. I know we're going to dive deep into AI and SEO and what the future is on that. But what are you seeing right now, like in your space, the dealers that you work with on the marketing side and AI, where's the future lie?
Yeah, man. I mean, in terms of, on the marketing side, I think a lot of it just really is being adaptable. It's hard to pinpoint exactly, a specific metric or KPI that you can pinpoint on. But I think the biggest thing is, okay, where are your consumers living and how are they digesting that content, right? I think right now we're living in an age where people are really starting to navigate towards social media obviously a lot more reliably than, email marketing may have been 10 years ago. Sure, there's obviously a need for that if you're utilizing it correctly. I think the biggest thing I see when it comes to marketing with a lot of vendors is a lot of false promises. And I'm sure you've seen this, right? There's a lot
Yeah.
of transparency issues in the vendor space. I think a lot of dealers are skeptical to jump ship with current vendors, even if they're not performing, because they're like, man, it's horrible out there, right? It's
Yep.
like you never know who to trust, you never know who to rely on. Is this guy actually going to fulfill what he promises us? So, I think the industry is taking necessary steps towards the right direction. I do think as a whole, there is a lot of need for innovation. And I think that's why the step into AI, I think that's why it's been so prominently shoved down dealers' throats, is because it's like, man, this is the future. You have to adopt it now. But it's like, dude, these guys don't want to have to worry about it to that extent, right? I mean, these guys are so busy on a day-to-day basis. I mean, as the general managers I talk to, man, it's like when you're on the phone with them, you better make that shit count, right?
Yep.
And, when you're on the phone with them, you see how busy it is on a day-to-day basis. So the last thing you want to deal with is another vendor telling them there's more problems going on, right? And just pitching them as well, right? I think a lot of pitching dealers on new product is sure, some dealers like to be sold. Like there's a saying that says that, but I do think the realistic idea is if you bring something valuable to the table, if you showcase that you have a product that is formidable in today's market, I think that it'll speak for itself. So I do think there's a lot of room for innovation, to circle back to your question, in terms of, where I see the space leading into. And that's kind of why, we've created the product that we're starting to create.
I'm excited to dive into it. I mean, there's so many problems that we can solve and so many gaps that we can bridge with AI. And that's what the exciting thing is here. Like in the service drive, fixed ops, finance, like everything, the customer experience is a huge one, and marketing, right? As we'll chat about. And you hit the nail on the head. Like it's a very difficult industry to get into because dealers are so busy. And they, again, as you said, they don't want to hear about more problems they have to solve.
No.
But I mean, these problems are real, and it's difficult, but they are real. So, yeah, it's an interesting conversation.
For sure, man. Yeah, I think you're right on the money. There's a lot to look at. And I think that's why, sometimes it takes thinking outside the box to solve problems that are currently going on, and maybe making some mistakes, right, along the way. I think that's a part of the process, is just figuring out that, what it is these dealers need, what it is they want, and how you can tie that, straight to their end user, right? How you can get it in front of them and how you can make them a converting customer.
100%. Well, let's dive into that, man. IMAGOS, right?
IMAGOS,
man.
Yeah, man. Hey,
I love it.
Man. Some guys call Nike. Some guys call it Nike. So, I'm not
100%.
I'm not one to shame.
I didn't do so well in the English classes growing up, so I will say that.
You are from Canada, man. So who knows?
That's true. It was my accent, man. That's what it was. So AI search has just dominated the world right now. It's in every headline. Google searches are down. Obviously, ChatGPT. Like, I mean, I use their new Atlas browser religiously, so I'm always searching through there.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a conversation that we've had in all of our dealer groups, is like, how do we position these dealers to be AI first and get ranked in the search? And that's only the first, it's the first little tip of the iceberg in terms of leveraging AI. And I know you guys are solving the rest. And so dive in a little bit on how your product works and how you came to be.
Yeah, man. I mean, to be honest with you, I wasn't even too familiar with it, 2 years ago, right? And that's when it just barely started to crack into the space more religiously. And I had the opportunity to sit down with a very large auto group here in Utah, Ken Garf actually, and I got the opportunity to see what they're utilizing to maximize their GEO, right? Their generative engine optimization, another funky word for SEO, but for AI platforms. And, they were having a lot of success with it. They're like, man, it's compounding year over year. Like you said, search is down. I don't think it's dead. I think people sit here and saying search is dead. It's not dead, but there is a huge industry gap and a bridge to solve, that people are just missing out on so many leads and so many opportunity on these first party leads, right? So man, I had an opportunity to sit down with him and kind of get an idea of what it is that they're utilizing. And, to my knowledge, I was like, man, this is something that is obviously there. But then I asked him, I'm like, so how are you guys tying that to attribution? And are you able to do lead generation off of these LLMs, right? Are you able to perform this lead gen? And he said, not yet. Right. And I'm like, man, if a group that size can't do it yet, I went home that night, man. And I'm like, what the hell can I do to really pinpoint and tie this straight to attribution on these LLMs? Because here's the thing, at the end of the day, you're not buying keywords like you would for SEM. You're not buying specific key phrases or, those sort of ideas. The difference is you're structuring data in a way that is legible to the AI platform itself, right? To Google Gemini, to ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot. And we work with all of those to ensure that you're not missing anybody on any of those platforms. And what we really came to build out is a dynamic answer card formula. Okay, to give you an idea. Okay, so instead of optimizing the entire website for a dealer with schema, metadata, all these things that are necessary to be read, we do that in a way where one, we can get you cited, but two, we can actually perform lead generation straight off of the platform, straight off of the AI platform. No need to redirect to a website. Because here's the thing, your website is the source of truth. Every dealer knows this, okay? But the reality of it is, if you are not navigating people into that funnel, because you have no control over what these LLMs put out. However, if you structure your data in a way where we can get our own CTAs with our own embeds involved into these in a way that we have built out, it's a little more complex than that, but it kind of gives you a good idea. We can literally collect information straight off of the platform, and someone fills out a lead form, a form fill, or a text to SMS lead, and we push it straight into the CRM of the dealer. I mean, I think that's a huge, I mean, Braden, you would probably know this. As you mentioned, a lot of the groups you talk to, this is a huge talking point right now because, man, it's one of those things where dealers are sick of third-party leads. They're sick of wasting bandwidth on hiring people to call these leads and then not have those leads convert. And they're spending
Yep.
thousands and thousands on it, where we position this as a new product that comes to market. And, this is a new platform. We're not just another AI tool. I mean, this is the future, whether dealers like it or not, right? And the early adopters are going to reap the benefits of that because they're going to become more data rich and they're going to become more credible, right? You probably know this. A lot of these AI platforms, they speak off of credibility. They speak off of authority, which we obviously program into our answer cards to ensure that these AI platforms trust the source of truth that it's coming from. But the reality of it is, if your website or your answer cards aren't formidable for these platforms to read it the way you want it to be read, you're just missing out on opportunity.
Man, there's so much gold here. We could nerd out about this for hours, I'm sure. Let's go back a little bit and let's make it as simple as possible. There's some dealers that are so far behind on SEO and like they're using, their pages on their site it's literally just text, no images. Awful. Prehistoric is what I'll say. And then to get dealers to understand the value in this, how do you bridge that gap? How do you expect dealers to adopt not even just SEO, but GEO, like full fledged? I mean, it is the future. There's no doubt about it, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, in terms of segueing into the adoption phase, I think the biggest thing is just watch our pilot stores, right? I think the easiest way for a dealer to invest in something into their dealership is to see how it's operating for another rooftop, right? Once they see that correlation, I mean, it's like a no-brainer at that point, right? It's like, okay, these guys are seeing success from these localized answer cards. That's one more thing I want to imprint on as well is everything is localized intent. We program our answer cards in a way where we are only going after localized buyers because at the end of the day, why would we don't want to be pulling Texas leads for a California dealer, right? And, to kind of just bridge that gap, right? And, to segue into that, I think the biggest thing for adoption, like I said, is trust, accountability, and attribution. I mean, the attribution piece, right? I mean, here's the thing. Anyone can walk up to a dealer and promise them the world, promise them a rainbow with gold at the end of it. But the reality of it is, until you have actual proof or data or case studies behind that, there's really no trust that can be bridged off of that first interaction. So what we're doing right now, Braden, is we're going after specific DMAs in each part of the country. And we're going to make this pretty scarce just because I really want to only work with specific dealers that are forward thinkers, early, into that early adopting phase. Because here's the thing, man, I could go out there and I have a lot of dealers that want this right away. They want it because they see the value in the attribution piece and they want all these extra data layers. Oh, people are searching for service. People are searching for cars. People are searching for an F-150, right? You can tie that to an exponential data layer on top of it. But the reality of it is we want to be very scarce as to who we work with. I don't want to just work with everybody. Partnerships are everything to us. We don't want to go, head first into a relationship with everybody, right? I would rather work with a very, very specific amount of dealers per DMA. And that's kind of what we're rolling out with now. I mean, we have about 8 pilot stores that we're kind of lining up to gear out with within the next couple months. Some of them are very, very big stores, and some of them are groups as well, within those specific DMAs. So, to your point, you can't hold a gun to a dealer's head to force it on them to adopt, but you can show them the value in it, and you can show them the direction the future's going. I mean, this is like I said, at the very beginning, whether you like it or not, this is where it's going. The amount of people that come to me and be like, Zach, this is genius, because the amount of times that I search on Google for specific things, I need to buy a new car. Where is the best place to get my car service in the Salt Lake City Valley in the zip code 84094? Boom. You pinpoint that person and you push them to a CTA through our formula. They fill out a form. You have an intentional buyer. And I mean, another layer we could add to that, Braden, is if we want to get really fancy, we can enrich that data, and we can get pretty fancy going forward. But right now, the biggest problem we're trying to solve is, one, how do we make sure you show up? And two, how do we turn that showing up that individual into a qualified lead and a qualified buyer?
Going back to like the pilot stores not wanting to work with everybody right now, 100% smart strategy. We're the same way when we started. I mean, like, it's AI. Things are going to go wrong. It's a new company, right? We're going to obviously have to fine tune things and adjust, and working with partner stores that are okay with that and willing to put in the effort with you in exchange for like the best product possible. That's what it's all about. So
no doubt, man. No doubt.
I love it. When you talk about answer cards, for the dealers listening who don't understand what that is, maybe they're just baseline knowledge on AI, dive into that.
Yeah. Briefly, I mean, to kind of give you an idea, think of it as like an FAQs page, okay? Frequently asked questions, okay? That we build a hidden page on a dealer's website. That will ensue that, one, obviously, the end user won't see anything regarding those answer cards, but we'll basically format it in a way where it's like a person asks a question to an LLM, okay? And AI will obviously answer that to any metric that it chooses. However, if it pulls that source and that structured data from the dealer, for example, where's the best place to get my car serviced in Utah, to keep things simple, it'll pull that answer. It won't respond with that exact answer, but it'll pull the structured data from that credible source that it trusts and incite it, right? Which then leads down the rabbit hole of, there's other things that are included in that, but that's the brief way of doing it. And that gives us an opportunity to track that and be like, okay, awesome. This person searched this around this topic. This person searched about the service department in Utah around this zip code at this time. We've got this pretty down to a T, where we can tell them when it was cited, what time it was cited at, where it came from, and this person filled out a form. Right. That's the answer card formula from, question, answer, bullet points, the call to action that we choose, obviously a little more complex than that. And then moving forward. And, one thing that I want to put a pin in is we have patent pending on this product as well.
Sweet.
It's a big thing to say, right?
Congrats, man.
Yeah, man. I appreciate that, and that just goes to prove that this is a new discovery model. Right. I mean, think of it. And the really cool thing too, that I've also thought about, sorry, I'm getting kind of excited about it, is
keep going. Keep going.
Think about it like this. Whenever dealers have a holiday season coming up, okay, for SEO or SEM, you obviously want to rank for specific keywords wrapped around those incentives for the OEM that you're working with. The big thing is on AI, what if you were to build out a model where you're like, listen, guys, we'll give you some Christmas incentives, 15 extra answer cards on top of that. And it makes it feel like SEM as well, right? Which is something dealers can relate to, is like, within 2 months of time, if you put it out in, October and then it goes into December, you'll be able to know, wow, look at this. We're getting people that are searching for Christmas. It's the busiest time of the year. People are wanting to hear our Christmas incentives. They're scheduling test drives. So, dude, there's so many angles and verticals that we can come in at with this. And that's what makes this truly special to what we're building.
Dude, my mind's going crazy with opportunities with like voice AI layered into this.
Yeah, man.
And
there's
outbound,
so many different things, man. And, another thing that we've been working on is we have some very good relationships with some Google Gemini partners. We're kind of bridging a gap there. If we can find a way to become, an actual Google Cloud partner working into their API, into their API program, That would also be a huge gap for us to solve, because then we're no longer inferring anything. We can tell you literally exactly what people are searching. And that just adds another data layer. So, yeah, man, we have a lot of cool things being built here. We brought on some really solid advisors and individuals in the space. Kinkle, founder of Vin Solutions, is one of our advisors. He had a very profitable exit, for those of you guys that are watching, of, $150 million for Vin Solutions. And we have some other ones that I'm not going to disclose at this time, but, just point is, these people have been very successful in the automotive world and worked with some very prestigious individuals. And, I'm a firm believer that if you surround yourself with the best of the best, I'm a younger guy, right? I'm 22 years old. I'm very young. I don't know everything. I'll tell dealers that sometimes, and they're like, "What? You're 22?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, but I'm hungry as shit, right? This is all I do. This is what I care about. That's why I'm going to surround myself with the best of the best, much like you, Braden, who are building these other products in the space, to really just build a formidable team and formidable network where we can just come into this thing and actually make a difference, and not just sell another AI tool."
Man, 100%. I relate to this a lot, because when we were doing advertising for like the last decade, it's awesome, right? At the end of the month, you can see the vehicles you help sell and influence and buyers you move down the funnel. But like the fulfillment side is nothing compared to what we're able to do now. And I imagine you feel the exact same way. Like
Yes.
you can actually see this incredible difference inside the business.
Yeah, no, the cadence changes completely, right? The more and more you work on something, it's really cool to see the upward mobility and the progress, and holy,
Yeah.
this actually happened, right? That's the stuff that gets me excited, man, and I think that's, the stuff that also gets dealers excited is, you show them the ROI. They're like, "Man, my money's being spent well. It's not being dumped down a well, never to be seen again," right? Which is, I hate to be the guy that calls out a lot of vendors, but the reality of it, man, is that's just how the game has been for a lot of time, for a lot of years, man. Especially these OEM certified vendors, like, they've gotten
I was just
lazy
about to
as
say
hell.
that.
They've
Yep.
gotten lazy as hell, and dealers are sick of it, man. Why would a dealer want to work with someone like that, where when you call them, you can't speak to leadership, you can't speak to someone that has their finger on the pulse? You get outsourced to somebody in another country. You get outsourced. You just get kind of pushed aside, right? I don't want to build relationships like that. Much like yourself, right? These dealers probably talk to you individually, right? They build a relationship with you as a business owner, and that's what these guys want. They want an actual partnership. They don't want another vendor, right? And I think that's another big thing that I see happening. Circling back to your point about where I see the space going is, everybody's trying to sell something, everybody's trying to pitch something, everybody's trying to work their way into the market share. But I think that's where people really cut themselves short, is because they're looking at it from a monetization standpoint. How can I make as much money as possible without even providing as much value as possible, right? I'm a firm believer that you have to provide the value and showcase that you have a good product to go to market. And then, sure, everybody wants to make money. But I think that people have it backwards. And I think people, it's very sad to see happen to a lot of dealers. It really is.
Relationships are the coolest fucking thing ever. Like, that's
Agreed.
what I'm going to say, man. They're awesome.
Yeah, man.
Like, dude, like these
Agreed.
conversations wouldn't happen if we didn't reach out on LinkedIn and like have a few phone calls and different connections that you probably have experienced. Like, relationships are the pinnacle of this space in business. It's the best.
Yeah, man. No, it's true. It's true.
We work with a lot of dealers that have stopped using their OEM certified vendors and stopped claiming co-op because of you've dealt with this too, right? I could name dozens of stores right now off the top of my head that refuse to use OEM certified marketing vendors now because that exact same thing. It's a junior account rep not running ads correctly, wasting budget, not being preventative, right? They're just so reactionary on ads, and they don't try new things. They don't try to develop and build relationships.
Yeah. No, man, I think you're right on the money. That's one of the biggest things that I see happen, right? And I don't want to, regurgitate what I just said, but, I really do think that, it really gives us an opportunity to really, flip that perception as to what it's like to work with a vendor and to have a good relationship, because these guys have been burned so many times, and, they don't want to feel that again, right? So they're very skeptical as to who to work with, and they're very skeptical as to which technology to adopt. And one more thing I really want to preface is, I think a lot of dealers struggle with, actually integrating the AI information into their process. And what I mean by that is, there's a lot of vendors and SaaS and tech companies that'll come in and give them a demo, show them how it works, and say, bon voyage, have fun, right? That's a horrible way of doing business because one, that dealer may not understand it entirely. Two, sometimes getting a hold of those people is very difficult, as mentioned, especially these larger companies because they're so busy. They don't put any sort of prioritization over, an individual dealer or an independent rooftop, right? They'll go after these large groups because, oh, that's where all the money is. Right? But they don't take attention to detail to realize that sometimes those independent stores will benefit the most from it and may lead down other rabbit holes. And I think that's the wrong way of doing it. And the cool thing with what we're building, much like I'm probably what you're building, is it's very simple. It's not complex. The dealer really doesn't have to do anything, honestly, besides actually contact the lead. Everything's white gloved. Everything's white gloved. We get access. The first thing we do is we get access to your website and we get access to the CRM to obviously push the leads in, and boom, right? That's literally it. I mean, everything else that we'll be handling on the back end is all automated and streamlined, right? We built these systems to, automate these answer cards in a way where we're constantly crawling the sites, right? We're doing everything for the dealer. And dude, who doesn't want to work with a company that is like, making it as simple as possible, right? These guys have so much going on. They don't want another dashboard. I'm sure you've heard that.
Yep,
They don't want
100
to
times.
just they don't want to just see, another product that may not go anywhere, right? Like, why not give them something where it's simple, it's seamless, and it works?
Yep. I was reading a post the other day, like there's a vertical AI and like SaaS. And so for listeners, vertical just means in the background, no dashboards, runs by itself. And it sounds like what you guys are doing is exactly that. One of the posts that I've seen, I forget who posted it, but there's a hybrid approach right now. Like we've had a lot of dealers ask us for a more intuitive dashboard, but it's only for specific people in the space. So like in the dealership. So BDC, a service advisor, that's basically it. And then it's like, how do we create accountability through the dashboard and the leads that we send them through voice AI? And without going down the rabbit hole, I think right now we're in this hybrid space where some vertical technology works great. And in the future, everything will be vertical, right? You may have one dashboard that runs everything. You might not even use dashboards because 90% of that work's going to be automated. So,
No, I think you're right. I mean, and again, like we obviously have a dashboard included in everything we do, but you don't have to use it, right? It's like it's there if you need it. It's simple. It shows you answer card citations. It shows you the leads. It's, it's a pretty cool dashboard. I won't lie. We're getting there. But the point is, at the end of the day, if these guys don't have time to hop on and log into a dashboard, they go straight to the CRM and those leads are ready to be worked and operated on. So I think that's the biggest thing.
100%. I love that you said that. We have some clients that don't want to use the dashboard. They don't need to. They have reports automatically sent to them, whatever. Everything they need to see is automated. It's just their team is dealing with the lead flow that we send them. So, then we have other groups that want to oversee everything. And that's cool too.
Yeah. I mean, again, and that's the cool thing about being adaptable, to my point, is, guys like us, we can pivot on a dime. These OEM certified vendors, they can't pivot at all. They turn like the Titanic, right? When they need to make any sort of additions or amendments to anything that they've done, mistakes or anything, they don't ever usually solve that problem in a way that you and me would, right? Instead of, maybe just throwing money at them, we actually solve the process. We solve the system. We solve the bottleneck, and we can pivot accordingly.
Process is so important too, right? You have so many different hands in the pot, and you can't, like you said, steer like a Titanic. And obviously these vendors have done amazing things because they got to where they are. So
agreed.
No shade there.
Not discrediting it. I'm just looking at it from the lens of, based on what I've heard from other dealers, right? They're sick of they're sick of the OEM vendors. And again, it's not knocking their systems or knocking what they've built, but it is knocking the fact that I think that it's not relationship based, to our point. I think that's probably the biggest thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, we could dive in, but like obviously there's these vendors take haircuts, right? From OEMs and other partners and gatekeepers, the way it's kind of set up right now. And so they are at a disadvantage of performing at the highest level because they don't have the profit margins to do so. So that also is a piece of it. So man, let's dive in. I think we could keep going on this, but like, let's go dive in. Last time you and I spoke, we talked about cars and kind of your dream. And we're like, shit, we got the same kind of goal here of owning a dealership. So let's chat about that, man. That's cool.
Man. I mean, I think, again, I never would have ever thought in a million years that this is where I'd be. But yeah, man, I mean, I really, I don't like to be that guy, but I really do like luxury cars a lot. I mean, I almost pulled the trigger on an Aston Martin a couple months ago. Would have been the worst purchase of my life, at this given point in time. But I was like, man, those sort of things get me excited. And it's not just like the status quo. I think it's just the fact that, it's cool to represent yourself in an industry where you actually drive the product. Actually, you
Yes.
actually run a dealership that you have contributed to, right? And the really cool thing, Braden, is, maybe in the future, man, we could do something together because, I mean, innovative minds working on a dealership and an auto group like that, I think could make some really big strides in this industry. And I think that's why some of the top 10 groups have been so successful here in the US. It's because they probably surround themselves with innovators, thinkers, people that aren't afraid to take those risks and those excuse that, but calculator risks,
Yeah.
to really get, stoke that fire and build something great. But yeah, man, I mean, it's obviously been on the bucket list of mine. I would love to do that one day. You said you did as well, right?
Yeah, for sure, man. Like I've been into automotive my whole life. Like my sister's always worked at dealerships selling and
Mhm.
like we became very close, family friends with the owners or met GMs of those stores. And then one of my mentors at 17, he owned a store, or still does right to this day. But it wasn't until I went down south and sat in the room for like a week of a big auto mall that we work with like GMs, and the sales advisor or the sales manager would come over to me.
Yeah,
He's like, "Hey, they're doing a demo upstairs. You should go sit in that. I think you'd be interested." Or, "Hey, they have a manager meeting in this room tomorrow at
that's
3.
dude.
You should go check
Yeah,
that out." And the conversations that I just was able to sit in, that's when it sparked my mind. I'm like, these are the types of conversations I get to have every day. I love it. And that's where I get, I obviously am very passionate about the cars too,
yeah.
but the whole business is just so fascinating to me. I love
I
it.
agree. I agree, man. And, I think something I really hate hearing people say is, I don't know if you've heard this, but all people say like, oh, GMs don't know what they're talking about or leadership, bro. The amount of GMs that I've met that are like the most intelligent people I have ever met in my life is actually like insane. Like there's this like stigma.
Crazy.
Car guys are dumb. I'm like, dude, if you sit in a room with a GM, he will tear you apart, man. I mean, these guys are in that position for a reason. They're running a multi-million-dollar company every day, right? Like, so, I mean, everybody is, right? My point is, I mean, I'm just using the GM as an example. It's like, dude, these guys are highly intelligent people. These aren't just like some average day Joes that walked into a dealership and landed themselves a job in that position, right? And I hate hearing that, man, because sure, there's always room for improvement, but that's like that on an
Hmm.
every individual basis. It's not the whole business, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's some things that are there's some stigmas behind the automotive business that I have a hard time with. I do think that there is a lack of transparency from both parties, on the vendor side and the automotive side. And maybe it's not even transparency, it's just communication. I think there's just a lack there. And I think that maybe that falls into the whole point that we were talking about, right? Is the relationship basis. Maybe the
Yeah.
relationship started off on the wrong foot and they didn't have a full idea as to what the product is or the deliverable is. And also vice versa for the vendor. Maybe they didn't know what the dealer was bringing to the table, or they didn't integrate any specific data point or KPI that could have helped improvement. These sort of things. But yeah, man. I mean, some of those I have met some very incredible people, even for doing this for as long as I have been. And man, I plan on continuing to do that.
100%. I can't relate more to that, man. It's just some very wise individuals in the automotive space. And like, I work with a good friend of mine and past client. He now consults for a lot of groups here in Canada,
Hmm.
but his mind and leadership, he's a massive fan of unreasonable hospitality. He leads and helps the team like I've never seen before. He just leads by example in every single way. Very curious. And so like when I see leaders like that, shout out Joel, by the way. He was on Joel Kershane. He was on one of our podcasts.
Awesome.
Incredible human being. And when I see
Hmm.
people like that, it's like I would love to work for somebody like that. But
Agreed.
I would love to be that person too, right? And
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah,
so
man.
cool.
No, dude. And I mean, kind of cycling back into the whole culture of the dealership, right? I think that's a really important topic as well. I think, that leadership rubbing off on, the rest of their employees and, their service advisors and all of these individuals in the automotive space. I think, that sort of leadership is what really builds that culture that every dealer really wants and wants to represent and stand for. Is like, how can I be authentic? How can I make a difference in my team? How can I propel us, going into the next quarter? And how can I mean, here's the thing, man. People build business, right? One of my advisors that we have on Imagos, he has a very, very wise way of looking at business. This man is very monumentally successful, and it's about the people. Right. And, people always ask him, what's the three most important things about business? And he'll just say people, people,
People,
people.
people.
Right. And it's true, man. I mean, without people, there's no motivation. There's no accountability. I mean, dude, there's days where I'm like, man, I don't want to get up today. And I'll get a text from my partner, get your ass up. Let's get working. Right. Oh, I'm human. Right. And I think those sort of accountability, sort of like accountability people that you have in your corner, and, those leaders that really lead with a sense of kindness in a way of, and that kindness doesn't have to be, like your mom cooking you a warm meal, but it can be them wanting you to succeed and them pushing you to your potential, right?
Right.
And I think that's what I've seen a lot in automotive is those top performers, those top performing groups and dealers is they have a dialed in idea as to what it takes to lead a team and what it takes to actually get them to the finish line and to help them succeed in this industry. I mean, you look at it, man, automotive has employed almost, dude, I mean, the amount of the people that work at dealerships, especially here in the United States, I don't even know what the data point is, but it's like one of the number
Crazy.
one. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the number one employers. And the reason for that is because, dude, I mean, it's the car business, right? Like, it's just, there's something about it, right? People can't get away from it. I don't even think I could if I tried at this point. I think I'd end up, falling into it again on accident. Because once you go in, man, there's no getting out, right? And I'm honestly okay with that.
I'm very okay with that. Yeah, I agree. I've been trying to think what else if we have an exit one day and paths change, where would I go? I literally can't answer that question.
That's how it is for me too, man.
Yeah.
I think we're thinking along the same lines there, right? Is like, I mean, I'm deciding, I guess the exact angle, but a profitable exit is obviously always on the table. If we were to go, sell something like this, man, it's like, what's the next cool thing we can create that can actually make a difference, right? And
Yeah.
with the way technology's moving, man, who knows? I never even know. I mean, I had the opportunity to sit down with a company today. They're not in the automotive space yet. However, they are building AI holograms, right? And I know it's really interesting in the idea of like, I know there's that stigma of like, we obviously don't want to take away from the personalization, from the individual touch, which is a lot of concern for a lot of dealers. But I think for a lot of people, they want to come shop on a Sunday. They want to come shop after hours. And if they have a AI hologram that they can interact with, talk like a human being, and schedule a test drive, that could be a huge lever to pull, as well as like QR code technology, and an entire AI agentic database and ecosystem. And it's cool having those conversations with thinkers like that, where I'm like, man, I could see a use case for that. And I've actually got them a seat at the table with a very large group recently, because that large group is like, man, I mean, I would go look at it. I don't know about you, but if that was in my city, I'm going to look at it. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's obviously a big lever for them to pull. And if they see conversions from it, man, that could be another big thing in the future. So I don't know, man. It's just cool to see the innovation coming into the industry. I think there is a lot of prehistoric ways of looking at things, but I do think that's going to change soon. I think it's going to have to change soon. These dealers are going to have to learn to live with it. I mean, if you're not going to move with the market, you're just going to be left behind, right? And that's how it is with every business. And I think that's, one way of looking at it. That's why a lot of like restaurants and things fail, because these other guys are so ahead of the game and they've been doing it for so much longer, and they've built that data pool and that data layer for so long that you having to catch up to that is just going to be a monumental disadvantage for a lot of dealers and groups that aren't willing to be early adopters.
100%, man. I'm excited to see where it goes. I mean, we're in the voice space, obviously. And if you showed me a demo where we are today versus even 3 months ago, I'd be like, holy shit, how many, is that a year from now? I don't know. No, it's months.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. So, but no, Braden, I mean, I really appreciate you, man. I think there's a lot of good things we have going on here. Congratulations on what you guys have built over there. I've heard
Thank you.
You've been doing a great job. And I think the reason is because a lot of dealers see the value in what you're building. You mentioned it's very simplistic, which to our point, that's what guys want, man. They don't want 15 different buttons to push. They want it simple. They want leads. They want it now. And you guys are also, you seem like
Mhm.
very solid people to work around. So that also probably helps on the relationship side piece as well.
Yeah, we love people, man. Like this conversation wouldn't be happening if we didn't. So it's yeah, it's a very rewarding place to be. So I appreciate that a lot. Let's
Of
wrap it
course.
up.
Cool.
I was on an episode the other day, which I think is launching today. I won't say what podcast in case it doesn't launch today. What's your dream car, man? I gotta know. You can go
Oof,
top three if you have to.
that's a tough one, man. I've always really, really wanted a Porsche 911 GT3 RS.
Cool.
That's one of the top of the line cars that I want. But I'm also one of the guys where I like to drive with luxury too, and like something comfortable. This makes me sound really bougie saying cars like this, but like Rolls Royce, those sort of
Cool.
cars where you can be driven in, and you can have an experience of just like decompressing in the back, taking some phone calls. That sort of thing also interests me because why not, man? What about you though, Braden?
Those are very cool answers, man. Have you ever driven a GT3 RS?
I haven't.
Cool.
That's one of my haven't.
I thankfully got behind the wheel of one the other day. I didn't drive it, turned it on, chilled in it for a bit, talked to the owner, but a buddy of mine seen me walking and he goes, "Hey man, I know how much of a fan you are of the GT3. Come over to the parking lot." So I walk over and hitting behind this old clapped out F250 was a brand new GT3 RS. And the guy gave me the key, and it was such a cool experience, man. It's like,
Dude.
I'm 6'2", so like getting into that thing was like, it's tight, man, but like you can fit.
Yeah.
It's cool. So that's definitely one of the top ones. I'm probably more of a Turbo S guy, just because I like to go a little more under the radar. And they're faster, so we'll go there.
Yeah, man. Hey,
but
there's always that.
It's a silver 993 turbo.
Ooh. Okay.
Or and a 1972 Ferrari Dino 246 GT. That's like, yeah, man. I like an 06 Ford GT. I like some raw old cars too.
Yeah,
so.
Dude. How can you not, man? I need to get a lot more knowledgeable when it comes to that. I guess the antiques of cars, man. But some of those old Mustangs, those also speak to me
Those
well.
are cool too, yeah.
I don't know if you ever seen what's that movie called? It's with Nicolas Cage. Oh, I'll have to get Gone in 60 Seconds. I don't know if you ever seen that. If you haven't,
I haven't.
You need to watch that movie because you'll fall in love with the car that I'm talking about.
But is that the Eleanor? That's
Yes.
Yeah. There was one here in town actually at a dealership, and I don't know if it's a replica, probably, but yeah.
Yes.
It's a beautiful car.
Beautiful car. But anyway, Braden, well, man, I really appreciate you. This is a great opportunity for me to kind of get out here and, speak to some of your audience and really just give them an idea of what it is that I think from my angle and from what I've experienced with the dealers I've talked to, where the space is going, man. And I'm just looking forward to the future, brother.
Cool. Well, hey, man, after running advertising for 10 years in tier 2 and 3, I fully agree. This is where it's going. A lot of wasted ad budgets out there, a lot of underperforming campaigns and vendors, and it's time to set a new standard, not just in the customer experience that we're trying to do, but in the marketing and advertising world. So,
no doubt,
Zach,
man.
thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Zack Whipple, everybody. Thank
Pleasure,
you.
guys. Thank you.